Nepal have bowed out of the Asia Cup after India thumped Nepal by 10 wickets in yesterday's rain-affected match. India advanced to the Super 4 following the win against Nepal. Despite being hammered by India, Nepal had an improved batting performance yesterday compared to their first Asia Cup match against Pakistan, as they posted a respectable total of 230 runs. However, Nepali bowlers could not back up the performance of the batters as they failed to claim any wickets. Good morning, I'm Abhiday Shrestha, and these are the headlines of the hour. Election to choose CPN-UML leadership in Lumini province starts after efforts from party chairperson KP Sharma Oli to select a consensus leader fails. Radhakrishna Karnel and Hari Rijal in the fray. India gives green signal to Nepal's proposal of exporting 10,000 megawatts of electricity in the next 10 years. A meeting scheduled for next week to finalize the Pancheshwar project. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un plans to travel to Russia this month to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin. And India thumped Nepal by 10 wickets to reach the Asia Cup Super 4. Nepal bow out despite a satisfactory performance with the bat. Sri Lanka to face Afghanistan today for a place in the Super 4. Election to choose a leadership for the Lumini Provincial Committee has started from 8 this morning at the ongoing CPN-UML's Lumini Provincial Convention in Butol, Rupandehi. For the new leadership, along with the Secretary, 12 out of 8 members towards the districts have been elected unanimously. Meanwhile, election is being held for 4 of the 5 posts of office bearers. Apart from this, election is being held in 4 districts: Rupandehi, Gulmi, Banke and Dang for the Accounts Committee and the open category of the province. Palpa's Radhakrishna Karnel and Putan's Hari Rijal are in the fray for the chairperson post of the Lumini Provincial Committee. The election is being held after efforts from party chairperson KP Sharma Oli to select a consensus leader failed. Results of the election are expected by this evening. The Indian Embassy in Kathmandu has informed Nepal government that the southern neighbor has approved of Nepal's proposal to export 10,000 megawatts of electricity in 10 years. The announcement of the proposal was made during a joint press conference by Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal and Indian Premier Narendra Modi during the former's visit to India. A preliminary agreement was made then. However, it had yet to be finalized as the Indian Council of Ministers had yet to approve it. This development has paved way for Nepal to export electricity to India. At present, Nepal Electricity Authority has been selling electricity to India on demand. The Nepal government has proposed to sell 110 megawatts of electricity for the next 5 years at the rate of 5 rupees 25 paisa. However, an approval by India's National Thermal Power Corporation is awaited. Likewise, a meeting has been scheduled in the capital next week to finalize the detailed project report of Pancheshwar hydropower project that Prime Minister Dahal and his Indian counterpart had agreed to finalize within 3 months. The government has said it is studying the DPR submitted by India's consultant company WAPCOS. Preparations are also underway for an agreement between Nepal Electricity Authority and Bangladesh Power Development Board. Once details of the price and fines in case of failure to supply electricity are concluded, the Ministry of Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation has said Nepal will likely begin exporting electricity to Bangladesh this year onwards. The National Assembly has directed the government to proceed with formulation of laws for effective implementation of the Constitution. After Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal furnished his responses, the National Assembly yesterday directed for the formulation of the laws at the earliest. Despite the lapse of 8 years since the promulgation of the Constitution, 181 laws related to Constitution have yet to be formulated. Prime Minister Dahal has said that laws would be formulated on the basis of priority. He informed that the Federal Civil Service Bill would be endorsed by today's meeting of the Council of Ministers and then would be presented at the Parliament. Earlier, members of the National Assembly had criticized the government for failing to formulate necessary laws. They said that the entire system was being criticized because of the government delay in formulating laws. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question. Why has the government delayed the formation of laws concerned with the implementation of federalism? Your options are A, deemed unnecessary, B, influence of party politics, and C, lack of pressure from parliamentarians. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal has said that he was prepared to conclude the topic of laws related to transitional justice at the earliest. Addressing a program held in Kathmandu yesterday, Prime Minister Dahal shared his belief that the topic of transitional justice would be addressed by the parliamentary committee. He said that the bill was registered with some amendments after the beginning of the new parliament and added that it would be resolved from the committee itself. Prime Minister Dahal has also accepted the fact that the violations of human rights were yet to be addressed. Premier Dahal also said that it was important to assess the roles played in transformation in society, establishment of democracy, and the nature and context of the struggle. At the program, victims of the conflict era and their family members expressed their grievances regarding the indifference for justice. Minister for Culture, Tourism and Civil Aviation, Sudan Kirati, has said that decades-old laws related to tourism could not address the need of the hour. Addressing the meeting of the International Relations Committee in Singhdarbar yesterday, Minister Kirati said that the laws formulated 35 years ago had to be amended. He also called for discussions on the priorities of the tourism sector. Minister Kirati informed that preparations were underway to purchase 3 aircrafts for the Nepal Airlines Corporation. He added that good business practices would help in paying the loan of 48 billion rupees. At the meeting, the parliamentarians drew the government attention, saying the expensive airfares could create a negative impact on the tourism sector. The parliamentarians also sought answers from the government regarding the appointment of a disputed individual at the position of the vice chairperson of the Lumini Development Trust. The government had appointed Larkyal Lama as the vice chair of the trust last month. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked people in several provinces what should be done to maintain road discipline. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
क्रॉसिङ गर्ने ठाउँ हुन्छन् त्यहाँ चाहिँ ट्राफिक उपस्थिति अनिवार्य जरुरी हुन्छन्
जेब्रा क्रस हेरेर चलाउनुस् अनि रोक्नुस् मान्छे गइराछ भने
विद्यार्थीहरूलाई मात्रै यो ट्राफिक नियम पालना गराउनको लागि चाहिँ प्रयोग गर्ने गरेको देख्छु तर मैले चाहिँ त्यो विद्यार्थीका अभिभावकहरू चाहिँ बढी अनुशासित हुनुपर्छ जस्तो लाग्छ
सर्वप्रथम जनताहरूले नै आफूले सचेत हुनु पर्यो
जापाती गाडी रोक्न नदिने जापाती मान्छे हिँड्न नदिने
ट्राफिक बत्ती लाइटहरू सरकारले प्रशासन मिलेर जडान गर्नु पर्यो
हामी सर्वसाधारण मानिसहरूले पनि हिँड्दाखेरि कसरी गाडी घोडा हिँडिरहेछ त्यो हेरेर अनि राम्ररी हिँड्नुपर्ने हुन्छ
छाडा चौपाइहरूलाई नियन्त्रणमा ल्याउने जापालाई नछोड्ने
जनता सचेत हुनुपर्छ
सर्वसाधारण जनसमुदायले पनि यसमा अलिकति राम्रो रोल गरिदिनु पर्यो
व्यापारीहरूले कब्जा गरेका पेटीहरू छन् त्यो पेटीहरूलाई स्थानीय निकायले खाली गराउनुपर्छ
नागरिकै सचेत हुन जरुरी छ
हामीलाई छुट्याइदिएको सडकको बाटो सर्वसाधारणहरू हिँड्ने बाटोमा हिँड्नुपर्छ
ट्राफिकले भने नियम त मान्नु पर्यो
ट्राफिकको नियम पालना गर्न पर्यो
आफै सचेत हुनुपर्छ
कुन ठाउँबाट लेनबाट काट्ने बाटो काट्नेदेखि लिएर सडक प्रयोगकर्तालाई नै आफू सचेत रहनु पर्यो
जसले अनुशासन भङ्ग गर्छ तत्कालै गाडीलाई जस्तो चिट काट्ने व्यवस्था गर्नु पर्यो
It's time now for the international updates. A U.S. official has said North Korean leader Kim Jong-un plans to travel to Russia this month to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin. The official said the two leaders will discuss the possibility of North Korea providing Moscow with weapons to support its war in Ukraine. The exact location of the planned meeting is not clear. There was no immediate comment on the report. Sources said that Kim was most likely to travel by armored train. The possible meeting comes after the White House said it had new information that arms negotiations between the two countries were actively advancing. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu had tried to convince Pyongyang to sell artillery ammunition to Russia during a recent visit to North Korea. Weapons on display at the meeting included the Hwasong intercontinental ballistic missile, believed to be the country's first ICBM to use solid propellants. It was the first time Kim had opened the country's doors to foreign guests since the COVID pandemic. Putin and Kim have since exchanged letters to pledging to increase their bilateral cooperation. He warned that the U.S. would take action, including imposing sanctions, if North Korea did supply Russia with weapons. There is concern both in Washington and in Seoul about what North Korea would get in return for such a deal, which may result in increased military cooperation between the two countries in Asia. On Monday, South Korea's intelligence service briefed that Shoigu had suggested Russia, China, and North Korea hold joint naval drills similar to those carried out by the U.S., South Korea, and Japan. Another fear is that Russia could supply North Korea with weapons in the future at a time when Pyongyang most needs them. Southeast Asian leaders will gather today in Indonesia for talks set to be dominated by the crisis in Myanmar and China's growing assertiveness in the South China Sea. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations ASEAN Summit will be followed by talks with Beijing, Washington, and other powers where U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will seek to push back on China's assertiveness in the contested waterway in place of President Joe Biden. The 10-nation bloc has long been decried as a toothless talking shop, and divided members are struggling to find a united voice on the Myanmar crisis since a 2021 coup overthrew the member country's democratically elected government. A spate of bilateral meetings with world powers Wednesday will be followed by the 18-nation East Asia Summit on Thursday, where heavyweights Biden, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and Russian President Vladimir Putin will be absent. Representing Beijing and Moscow will be Chinese Premier Li Keqiang and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Before that, ASEAN members will gather to hash out a declaration that accommodates all members' positions on Myanmar, where the military coup unleashed a bloody crackdown on dissent. Chair Indonesia has pushed for Myanmar's junta, which is barred from the bloc's high-level meetings, to enforce a 5-point plan agreed 2 years ago to end the violence and restart negotiations. It's time now for the sports news.
Sports news.
Nepal have bowed out of the Asia Cup despite a satisfactory performance with the bat against India. Nepal suffered a 10-wicket loss to India, who advanced to the Asia Cup Super 4 after an emphatic win over Nepal in a rain-affected match. In the match played at Pallekele International Cricket Stadium in Kandy, Sri Lanka yesterday, Nepal were put to bat first and posted a respectable total of 230 runs after being bowled out in 48.2 overs. Nepal had a nervous start, but India dropped 3 catches inside the first 5 overs. Kushal Bhurtel and Asif Sheikh added 65 runs for the opening partnership. Kushal was the first to depart, scoring 38 runs off 25 balls with 2 sixes and 3 fours. Nepal then lost wickets at quick intervals and were reduced to 134 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in 30 overs before rain almost stopped play. Asif has top scored for Nepal with 58 runs off 97 balls, while Sompal Kami had contributed 48 runs off 56 balls, hitting 2 sixes. Gulshan Jha also added 23 runs. Mohammad Siraz and Ravinder Jadeja both claimed 3 wickets each, while Mohammad Shami, Hardik Pandya and Sardul Thakur took a wicket each. Chasing a victory target of 231 runs, India scored 17 runs off 2.1 overs before rain stopped play. After play resumed, India were given a new target, which they reached with 17 balls remaining. Rohit Sharma and Shubham Gill sparkled with an unbroken 147-run opening partnership to crash Nepal's party and put India in the Super 4 round. Pakistan have already qualified for the next stage from this group. Nepal suffered a 1-0 defeat against Bangladesh in the Under-16 SAF Championship football. In the Group A match played in Thimphu, Bhutan yesterday, Mohammad Ashikur scored the only goal of the match. The match had ended in a goalless stalemate in the first half. But in the second half, Ashikur scored in the 47th minute to seal the win for Bangladesh. India had edged past Bangladesh in their opening match, 1-0. Nepal will face India tomorrow in the last group stage match. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.